Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Retro Gamers Podcast. Episode number 287.
287.
Larry here.
And Anthony here. You can't count anymore, can you?
No, I can't. I lose track.
Yeah, but...
Well, we have so many. We have so many episodes. Why
we have
count?
so many episodes, and we had to stop counting with our fingers and toes, because that was a long time ago.
Head, shoulders, knees, and toes.
There
So as we rapidly approach 300, but today we're gonna try and keep this one quick. Of course, we say that it'll be a 3-hour episode.
We say that all the time.
We do. I want to get the episode though kicked off right off the bat with a couple of cool things. One of which I saw as an announcement, and one that something I finally got in the mail from Kickstarter.
I would like to start with the coolest announcement of all.
Oh, go for it.
Yes. So a very special congratulations to one of our frequent guests on the podcast, Rich, who has now become a very proud papa for the first time. Yep, he is.
Shalom.
He's got himself a little gamer raise.
Oh boy! Remember, now you got to buy in pairs. One for you and one for the kid.
One for the kid.
Remember,
one for the kid to destroy. Yes.
The kid will always destroy. I have a set of Switch controllers just for my godson and his little brother, because they destroy things.
Yeah. That's what kids do. You don't remember doing that as a kid?
Actually, no. Probably because I didn't want anything destroyed. It was all mine.
Yeah, well, that is true.
Only child. So, but no, congratulations. Absolutely. Goes out to the Rich family.
So you were going to talk about an announcement?
No, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, I was going to say who will probably be very excited about this announcement, because I think everyone should, only because what it might lead to. Mm-hmm. So I was watching, I literally skimmed through the Nintendo Direct Mini that they had, which is all third-party publishers, nothing major. Don't worry. I mean, I'm sure there's some major stuff. But the one thing I saw is that they are remaking Pac-Man World. Repack.
Oh.
So...
Really?
Yeah, so Pac-Man World, which is a good game.
Okay.
So someone called it the Super Mario Brothers Pac-Man game.
Yeah, because, the side-scrolling Pac-Man.
Well, no, that was a little more like Super Mario 64, kind of, sort of.
Oh, okay. I got
mixed up. The one that came out like on PlayStation and stuff like that. So they're remaking that. That's coming out later in the year. Nice. Fingers crossed. Then they remake Maze Madness, Ms. Pac-Man Maze Madness.
Oh, that's a fun game.
Oh, I love Ms. Pac-Man.
Well, again, anything Miss Pac-Man is going through licensing issues. So.
I know, that's what I'm kind of concerned about. So even they just call it Pac-Man Maze Madness, who cares?
Or is it, or no, Pac-Mom now?
Yes, Lady Pac.
Lady Pac.
Yeah, so I just thought that was really cool, because we've been talking about Pac-Man Museum and stuff like that. Pac-Man World Repack is coming out.
There you go.
And the other thing I want to mention is, for the first time in how long has the Dreamcast basically been dead? Yeah, 20 years?
2001 or 2002. Yeah, it's about 20 years.
About 20 years? All right. Mm-hmm. I finally got my first brand new Dreamcast game in the mail. It's a Kickstarter.
Okay.
Yep. The game's already out on current consoles. It has been for a little while, but just to have it on Dreamcast is awesome. Game called Shadow Gangs, where you basically are on a warpath to fight Freddie Mercury. So.
Oh, wow. Evil Freddie Mercury.
Evil Freddie Mercury.
He has no eyes.
Frederick Mercury.
Frederick, right. Or no, Fred E. Mercury.
Ooh, I like that. Oh, I like it, folks. Do it. Brand new Dreamcast game. Literally, I just tried it out right before we started recording. Well, first of all, it's a blatant ripoff of Shinobi. But beyond that, it was just, I was a little worried that it wouldn't work in my Dreamcast, because depending on the model, some will play new games. But this one works.
Okay, cool.
Amazing 45 to maybe minute and a half load time. Which
that sounds Dreamcast worthy, yes.
Which I completely forgot about. No, I don't, because I put the game in and I got through the menu, selected my character, waiting for the first level to start, because it said stage 1. Click, 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 click. Okay.
It's like you have time to get a drink, go to the bathroom.
I could have done my taxes.
Yeah. There's
I
plenty you can
forgot.
do.
I was about to get up and reset the system, and then luckily
And then
it went. Then got a cool thing here signed, of course, by the guy who created the game and stuff like that.
Very nice.
And good shot again of Fred E. Mercury.
Fred E. Mercury. There he is.
So yeah, Shadow Gangs again. Check it out. It's on current consoles.
So
but
when they're talking about Shadow Gangs, is this like a West Side Story gang then that they burst into song and?
You know what?
Mercury just blows your head up by hitting a high note.
If it wasn't so blatantly Shinobi like, I can run with that.
Oh,
but I mean, they just reskinned Shinobi.
They reskinned Shinobi.
I think so. That's how beyond. I trust. I want to roll with that joke, but this game is so it's so on
Fair
point.
enough.
But it's pretty cool, and it works with the VGA and everything like that. So, right? Yeah. So very cool.
Very
brand
cool.
new game on Kickstarter.
Nice.
I think I have one more coming in. I don't remember for Dreamcast. I got to double check that one.
Okay.
So that was basically the quick news on my end. I don't know if you have anything.
No, the only thing, a couple things that I had at least going on for me. I did get a notice from Kickstarter for that. I'm trying to remember the name of the book, the Nintendo book that we ordered.
Yes, Game Informers or something like that.
Yeah, Game Informers.
Yes.
So they asked for an address update. So apparently, I think that thing's finally ready to ship.
Yes, it is ready to. I can't wait. Yeah,
it's ready to ship, which is really cool. So looking forward to getting that. Only other news I really have on my end. Still playing Pac-Man Museum like crazy.
Awesome.
That was. I should probably close that.
I was ignoring the ding, but okay.
No, I just muted the ding. No more dings. No more dings. Yeah, so playing Pac-Man Museum, playing a lot of Pac-Man, just original Pac-Man.
Wow, old school, OG Pac-Man. Okay.
OG Pac-Man. In fact, when we decide to go back to our contest, whenever that's going to be, I think I know which game I'm going to use next.
Ooh, because you know how bad I am at the slow Pac-Man. Okay. Fair enough.
I think you might need to bone up on some Pac-Man.
I might have to, because you still have the high score on my machine, which I'm not happy about.
Well, that's Miss Pac-Man, though. Completely different.
Still, nevertheless.
And I will hold on to that forever.
Awesome.
And then the other thing also I just started doing. So I don't know if we talked about it yet, but the new PlayStation.
We talked a little
briefly,
bit about it, yeah.
But you know, the new PlayStation Plus structure is out officially. So I did order what's the top one? Premium?
Sure.
Because it's like Essential Plus, Premium, whatever.
I think it's Premium. I think it's Premium.
So
whatever the top tier is.
Yeah, so I converted mine to the top tier because it was only like $30 to turn.
Yeah, it's not, but you must have just renewed, yeah.
No, I didn't, but I was just like, is that all you're going to charge me? Fine, I'll do it. So I just upgraded to the top tier, which is cool. And then I went through all of the games and I'm like, okay, well, first thing I thought about it was that I don't feel an urge to buy anything digitally anymore because odds are it'll show up there eventually.
It might, yeah. I mean, it's not as prolific as Xbox is as far as getting things out day one, but still, you got a lot of stuff up there.
Yeah, but so I wound up downloading and started to play a game that I have for my Xbox One, but since my PS5 is hooked up to my TV, I was like, oh, I'll just download it and play it. So I started South Park: The Fractured But Whole.
The Fractured But Whole. Nice. That'd be the second game in the series.
Yes, because I played Stick of Truth on 360.
I never got into that, and I wanted to.
So much fun. It was so much fun.
It's not the South Park part. It was just the role-playing part of it.
Yeah,
but, I might go back.
You kind of got to like the role-playing part. And, the Fractured But Whole plays similarly. But, it's superhero themed instead of fantasy themed.
That's right.
Yeah, just really great, really fun. What I love about it, too, is like if you're a South Park fan, it's like you're just playing through a really long South Park episode. It's like it's like a 30-40 hour South Park movie. Oh yeah, Matt Stone and Trey Parker, I mean, they wrote it. Both games actually. And in fact, I think I came across an episode that basically was the Stick of Truth. I think they did an episode which then spinned off into the game. Yes, they did.
But the Fractured But Whole, I definitely want to give that a whirl. That looked very funny. It's definitely worth playing. I found myself just laughing hysterically while I'm going through it. And that's not something you get when you play a game. No. And that's what's good about having, the creators of South Park part of the making of the game. Exactly. It's their fingerprints on it. So that works out tremendously.
Yeah, exactly. So so that I've been really enjoying, which is cool. I think
Cool.
that's really all of my current updates at the moment.
I've what I beat Axiom Verge.
Nice,
Got through
congrats.
that in just under 16 hours.
Okay, cool.
And
So a normal
and
person takes 8.
maybe
Yeah,
because I there was definitely about a couple 4 hour just running around the
wandering.
board.
Yeah,
Oh my god. I don't
yeah,
know why I torture myself. And then I immediately went into Axiom Verge 2.
of course.
So, went right into it,
Well,
which I'm loving right now.
I was just gonna say if you enjoyed the first one, why not jump into the
Well, what's
second?
cool is you can play these two, like one has nothing to do with the other, according to the creator of the game. So you can play them out of order.
Okay.
Though I'm starting to see some things that might connect. So, but again, you can
Okay.
still play them in any order. You'll just
Mhm.
see it as you play. So
Fair.
that's my current obsession right now on the Switch.
All right. Very cool. Yeah, I was. What was I playing on my Switch the other day? I tried Pac-Man '99 for the first time.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yep, and that was a lot of fun.
Yep.
I came in like 30th
All
or
right. Fair
something
enough.
like that, which is cool. And that was fun. Oh, Tetris Effect I tried for like I haven't played it in a long time. I forgot how cool Tetris Effect was.
Yeah, I
It's
love the music.
the music is great, but like
Oh, the game itself.
yeah, the game itself is awesome, and playing it in VR is just trippy as hell.
It is. I did.
It
I
really
think that was
is.
the last game I played in VR on the
Yeah,
PlayStation VR.
it's so much fun. But yeah, so Tetris Effect was another one I was playing
Awesome.
recently.
All right. Cool.
Yeah, very cool.
So.
But shall we get to the big news?
Yes, let's
for
get
this
into it.
week?
All these modern games. Technology, CDs, digital. What?
What now? Who needs that stuff when you can go back to good old fashioned cartridges?
Yes, throw it against the wall and it will still play.
Exactly. But we are basically this episode's focus is a very it's a big giant retro birthday.
It really is, yeah.
Yeah, it is, and
It's a monumental one.
and it is. It's a huge
Absolutely.
milestone. We posted it on our Facebook page.
Yes.
We figured we'd want to spend this episode talking about it, but Atari is celebrating its 50th retro birthday, which is huge. June 27th, 1972.
Wow, 72.
Founding of Atari.
It's hard to think for us because we're so close to the 70s, or at least early 70s, that there was gaming home, well, not home necessarily, but just gaming in the 70s. Because even when I think of the 80s, I still feel like it was so archaic, which it was compared to today. But still, man, Atari, basically a lot of our generation's first home consoles.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the Atari 2600 was my first video game console, and man, I play the hell out of that thing.
Totally. I want to say the 26. I don't think it was the 52. Yeah, it was probably the 26 for me as well.
Well, the 26 was like the go-to for Atari.
Oh, 100%.
That thing just lasted forever. Yeah, so Atari turning 50, just so many. I have so many memories associated with it. Obviously, not starting in 1972 because I wasn't around then.
Not yet.
But yeah, just I remember. I don't remember, like I was maybe like 5 or 6 when we got that thing, because the 2600 first came out in 1977.
Okay. Yep.
Atari had released other things, obviously most notable for Pong. That became their big money maker to begin with.
Oh my God! Literally the first arcade game. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, no, Space War.
Well, the first.
Well, first
mass.
K. Yeah. So, Pong was. Interesting thing about Atari too was like Nolan Bushnell was he's the founder of Atari. Mm-hmm. Founded the company with $250.
Oh, wow.
That's how much founded the company. That's what it cost him to establish it as a business.
To basically register it. Yeah, which was still a lot of money back then, but still not as much as you thought.
Yeah, and I think it wound up making like some crazy
I'm sure it did.
$28 million in like the first year or something like that.
Sure it did.
Insane. But just really, really cool stuff. And then I just thought, we could talk about our memories with our favorite games and stuff like that. But I did look up a bunch of stuff about Atari that I thought would be cool to know, and not the standard here's a timeline of events and all this stuff, but just random things to throw out there.
The wood grain finish was made out of an oak and pine mixture.
Actually, the wood grain finish is part of the list.
Oh, really? Oh, cool. Yes.
Okay. But just like cool things about the Atari, for those of you who've never owned or played an original Atari,
which is now possible,
which is more than possible. some of the things to point out about it. First off, games came on a cartridge. A lot of the early consoles in the 70s, it was just you got a box, you hooked it up to your TV, and it had the games in it. And
all in one.
Yeah, and most of the time it was just different variations of Pong.
Essentially.
Yeah, they would call it tennis, table tennis, hockey, but it was essentially Pong with different variations. The Atari 2600 came out, cartridges. And again, I think they had done that with the 4 and the 800 as well. They did have a couple of consoles.
They did. It certainly wasn't the first one with cartridges, but as we talk...
This is the first one that really sold the hell out of cartridges.
Yes.
And one of the coolest things about, one of the biggest selling points about the 2600 also, it was one of the first consoles where your games had different screens or stages. A lot of games were very flat. It was one thing, and you play it on that screen, and that was the end of it. But Atari games like Adventure, you moved your dot to a different screen, you actually went to a different screen.
Mm-hmm.
It was a totally different stage. Granted, it was very simplistic. The colors changed, but for that time period,
mind-blowing.
Absolutely mind-blowing.
That weird-looking dragon still freaks me out sometimes.
I know, he really does. To me, I remember when I used to play the game, I always thought it was a duck. Because it would go like that. It was like this. Sideways, it was just like this.
It was oddly shaped, but even for the 80s, good Lord, why would you think a giant duck is going to try to attack you in Adventure?
I don't know why. I don't know why would you think that looked like a dragon? I thought
because that's what I was told.
Well, somebody told you that. I looked at it and I said, "Why does the duck hate me?" and one of them was brown. Ducks are brown.
This is fair.
So there you
mallards.
Go. Okay. Yes, mallards. Yellow. I don't know about the yellow duck. That's a whole other story. The yellow dragon. Cool thing about Atari games also, and this is something that definitely very, very, very rarely happens these days, if at all anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But one person was responsible for making an entire game. So it wasn't like, we have a team of 20 people and we have a composer here and we have graphics people here. It's like, no, one person did it all. Did the graphics, did the gameplay, did the music, all of it.
You do get a little bit more of that nowadays with homebrews and indie publishers, but you see it. Like, trust me, a single person, like I think Axiom Verge was done by one guy. Thomas Happ, I want to say, or Timothy Happ. And same, I think, with Axiom Verge too. But yeah, a lot of times you always hear these stories of like just one guy being up 18 hours a day for like 6 months straight, coding, trying to get a game working. And I feel like that would be a positive and a negative that we can talk about another time, where it's just you, but at the same time, it's just you. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times you got the single programmer.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, single programmers are responsible for a lot of games. Another interesting thing, without Atari, we may not have gotten the company that was known as Activision, which I know is going through some problems right now. But at least back then, because what happened was, and this actually ties into the story of Adventure, how Adventure contains the first Easter egg.
Yes.
So the game designer for Adventure didn't like the fact that he wasn't getting credited for the game. So in the beginning at Atari, game designers didn't get credits for the games that they made. They were just released and that was it, until Warren Robinett put his name, or Robinette, I think, put his name in Adventure. And if you found it, it was, that was the first Easter egg in gaming. So 4 other game designers at Atari did not like the fact that they weren't getting credited for their games. So they up and left and created their own company and called it Activision.
There you go.
And that's how we got Activision.
Interesting.
Yep. Another fun little fact with Atari, I was reading something in the 70s. They had put out an ad for the company saying, have fun, make money. That was literally the ad. It was like, have fun, make money. And a hippie looking dude showed up at the office saying, I'm responding to the ad. I'm not leaving here until I get a job. And he was very insistent. And then eventually, like, I guess Nolan Bushnell or whoever it is came out and wound up talking to the guy and hiring him. His name was Steve Jobs.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I did not. Wow. I did not know.
Steve Wozniak also worked at Atari.
Wow. That's where they met.
That's how we got Apple. Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
So another thing, without Atari, would we have ever gotten Apple?
Holy
or the
cow.
Apple that we know? So yeah, another interesting thing there. Let's see. The name Atari. Do you know how they named the company Atari?
I feel like I did at one point, but I don't know right now.
So the Japanese version of chess is called Go.
Okay. Yes.
It definitely does not look like.
No.
It doesn't look like chess, but the word Atari in the game Go is also known as like check. You know when you check your opponent in chess?
Yes.
That's what Atari means in the Japanese game of Go.
Okay.
That's where they wound up taking. That's how they named their company.
Gotcha.
It's another cool thing.
It's almost like Haagen-Dazs, where like,
Yes.
you know, Haagen-Dazs means nothing. It's gibberish. It's German gibberish.
Exactly.
But at least this was something, but it's just
This
an
was actually-
odd.
This was actually something you just.
Yeah, but it was just like pulled out of nowhere. So cool.
Another thing about the Atari when it first came out, it came out in 1977, September 11th, 1977.
Ah, okay.
It came out with 9 games.
Really? That's a lot.
For the first 2 years, it kind of just sold a little bit modestly, did not do that well. But then what happened in 1979 was Atari decided we're going to start making video games for it all year round. And in the beginning, they weren't doing that. Once they decided to do that in 79, it became a huge hit, sold over 1 million units that Christmas alone.
So they only like were planning on making games seasonally, basically.
Yeah, seasonally, probably aiming at Christmas.
Which would make sense in itself, but still.
Right. So once they decided we're just going to keep releasing games all around the year and the library built, it became a hot commodity. They wound up making $200 million the Christmas of 79, which is huge.
Yeah.
Especially in 1979.
Oh, totally.
Let's see. What else can I say? Here's a fun little thing. There was this little company that contacted Atari in the 80s. And they wanted to work with Atari to help develop their system.
Okay.
The deal wound up falling through.
Ooh.
And as a result, this company wound up just releasing the system on their own in the States. And what company would that be? Nintendo.
Oh, wow. Really? I didn't realize Nintendo tried to work with them. Okay.
Yeah. It was almost an Atari project. They were.
That's kind of funny.
They approached Atari about releasing the NES under the Atari brand.
Gotcha. Because back then there were like 5 different companies producing Ataris.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So because they were just reaching out to different companies.
It's kind of funny how that whole thing kind of bit Nintendo in the butt with the PlayStation.
Yep. Exactly. It's a cyclical thing, isn't it? Like when a new company. Yeah. Look. For any of the big companies right now, if a company comes to you and says, yeah, we have this idea we'd like to try working with you with, just roll with it. Otherwise, you're going to create another company to compete with you. That seems to be what happens.
And it costs us more money.
Yep. So another person that we're connecting to Atari, which is interesting. We talked about
Kevin Bacon.
Jobs. We talked about it's not 6 degrees. No, this is like 6 degrees of like every other company. But in the 80s, Atari actually hired Bill Gates to program BASIC onto one of their Atari computers.
Good Lord.
But he kept missing his deadlines, so they fired him.
Of course.
They fired Bill Gates.
Of course they did. And of course he did.
Exactly.
How is Atari the nucleus of like this computer boom? You know what I mean?
Bill Gates had already founded Microsoft. He didn't work for Atari. They contracted them to put the programming language BASIC onto their Atari computers, but they kept missing deadlines, and they were like, "Nope, never mind, we're out.
Missing deadlines.
You're fired, Bill Gates." Probably
Bill Gates. We're gonna throw you. Bill Gates, we're gonna throw your contract out the window. Oh.
Ooh,
goodbye, Atari.
Bye. 10 years later. Here we go. Windows. Hey. You had talked about what the wood paneling, which is interesting too.
Yes, I've always loved the wood. Folks, the 70s was all about shag carpet and wood paneling. I don't know why, but
your walls were wood paneling. Your furniture was wood paneling.
Your television was incorporated into the furniture.
Yes.
You couldn't just buy a TV. You bought an end unit.
Yes. And you had to feel bad for the delivery people, because if you had to walk upstairs with your television then, Oh man, that was just like that was like a major thing. So the wood paneling on the Atari was created that way because of all of the wood paneling furniture and stuff
Totally makes sense.
in people's homes in the 70s. So that's
Totally
just the
makes
reason
sense.
why it looks like that.
And that's why I love, because with the, which I'll talk about later more, a little more, with the Atari VCS, when I jumped on it, like I had to get that wood paneling version. Like there was no other.
Oh,
None of this black onyx or galaxy purple or whatever. Give me wood paneling.
Yep. No, and I agree with that. And then also, just so you know, the cartridges, the reason why they're the shape they are, because they were mimicking 8-track tapes.
Ooh, that's a good one. I never even thought of that.
Yeah, and of course, we all know what happened to 8-track.
Yes, we do. I don't think I've ever seen an actual 8-track in a car played.
Here's this one. This one I absolutely love. Nolan Bushnell, after when the company started to make its money, right? What he wound up doing is he decided to, after I think he sold Atari.
Okay.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Let me just read that. He had an idea to make Atari even more money. Instead of selling his games to arcades, he thought he would build arcades around another company.
I think I know where this is going.
So he can make all the profit. So he bought a Pizza Time restaurant and turned it into
Chuck E. Cheese.
Chuck E. Cheese.
I love that story.
It's just awesome.
I mean, Chuck E. Cheese was the greatest place on earth growing up.
And he gave birth to one of the creepiest mascots ever made. Chuck E. Cheese.
Chuck E. Cheese
is creepy. He's just creepy.
He almost knocked me out with that porcelain nose of his one time at the Chuck E. Cheese over by Caesar's Bay. I just turned around and went just right into that nose. I was like, whoa, okay. Let me go to the bull pit and throw up.
just an awesome thing there.
Hey, not for nothing, but that like cracker thin pizza, like a wafer thin pizza.
Awful.
I was gonna say, like, this. Sometimes something's like so bad it's good. I'm not saying it's the best pizza of all time, but there was something about it.
I'll tell you something about that cracker thin pizza. I have a friend who lives in St. Louis, and when I went to visit him, he's like, "Oh, we're gonna order, let's order pizza." Okay, great. Pizza shows up. It was literally that pizza. Like that pizza is sold.
Wafer thin.
No, that's a style of pizza sold in our country, and it's terrible.
Yeah. I mean, look, we're from New York, so we know what pizza's all about. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying, like, it was almost like Elio's. Like, Elio's is good. And,
no, Elio's was better. Like, let's just call it out right now.
Elio's is really good.
Elio's was better than that garbage.
Damn, okay? I want Elio's now.
Just put it out there. A few other things about the Atari. Atari actually had the first game with speech in it.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Granted, it was very rudimentary, but the game was called Quadrum.
Okay.
The voice synthesis only had a few seconds of dialogue, but it works. It worked. It was in 1983.
Cool.
So first game with speech. I said before, first multi-game console with all the cartridges. First multiplayer console with the 2 controllers. Pong and everything was automatically built to be a 2-player.
I know what you're talking about now, like detachable controllers.
Yes.
I was gonna say with the F channel, but I think those were hardwired in, so I think you were kind of stuck with those.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's see. They were the first system to have arcade ports. Interesting.
Well, all right, hold on. Let's use that term very loosely.
Well, we're not talking about Pac-Man or any other game. Also, the Atari was never patented.
That's why you had 12 different companies making Ataris. Yeah,
a million of them. They were responsible for they were one of the main responsible people for the great crash of '83.
Oh my God,
I
blame them wholeheartedly.
Yep, we can blame ET for that.
Oh,
and we can partially blame Steven Spielberg.
Poor Steven Spielberg.
Well, no, apparently Steven Spielberg personally picked the designer for the ET game. So, and
they're like, we want it for Christmas.
Yeah, they only gave him 5 weeks to make it.
Honestly.
So, and if you want to know how bad the ET game is, people who are listening or watching, just look up ET Atari 2600 on YouTube. The game not only is terrible in terms of gameplay and everything, but you can beat the game in 40 seconds.
Apparently you could, yeah.
Yeah, there are videos out there of people beating the game in under a minute. So imagine paying $50 or $60 for a game that can be done in 40 seconds.
My parents paid that much money for me to have that game, and all I did was like, oh, look, I could stretch his neck. That's all I can do. That was the most.
But that was it.
I should go back and play that.
You should. So a bunch of fun stuff about the Atari. Last thing I wanted to talk about with them, top 10 selling games on the Atari.
This is interesting. Okay.
Yeah, because you'll find some really well-known ones. Again, some are arcade ports. And some of them are actually semi-decent arcade ports, too.
Oh, no, I can definitely, off the top of my head, I can think of a few that I actually prefer the 2600 version as opposed to almost anything else.
Yeah. So, so the top 10 best-selling Atari, and again, we're sticking with Atari 2600 since that was the real system. Oh, one other fun fact about the Atari 2600. Came out September 11, 1977. They did not stop making that console until 1991, marking the longest period of time a console has been made. 14 years. They were making that console for 14 years.
I wonder if they redesigned it.
I think they did redesign it a couple times.
I don't remember anything.
Because even after they came out with the 5200, the 7800, I believe, they kept making 2600s because of the library that they had.
That library was tremendous. I'm slowly building it now.
Yeah, but 14 years that console lasted before they stopped creating more. All right, top 10 games. Number 10, Dig Dug.
God, I hate Dig Dug.
1.64 million units. I love Dig Dug. Dig Dug was fun.
But that's a lot of units, though.
So. That is a lot of units.
Because, again, you got to remember, but just real putting in perspective, we're late 70s, early 80s. We'll stretch it into the mid-80s. You know, not everyone is playing video games. You know what I mean? Not everyone could afford it. So it's been a little of a niche situation. So, but that's still a high-quality number.
Yeah, definitely a high. Yeah, for the time, no question.
Absolutely.
Number 9, edging it out, 1.65 million, goes to Ms. Pac-Man.
Really? I would have, not because I love it. I would have thought that was higher on the list.
Well, Ms. Pac-Man definitely improved on Pac-Man's.
Totally.
On the Atari by like a lot.
Yeah.
But you gotta think at the time and when it came out.
And also, to be fair, we've talked about this in the past. A lot of times the box sold the game. And the box art, and no one knew what they were getting until they put the game in. So I have a feeling a lot of the higher end games, people might have been hoodwinked into.
Yeah, because the really cool artwork.
Exactly.
The artwork did sell a lot.
Just imagine what the artwork's going to look like as we get higher.
E.T., number 8.
Of course.
1.97 million. And the reason why it's worth pointing out that this is only number 8, because they made something like 6 or 7 or 8 million units overall.
Ridiculous number.
They made like an insane number expecting them to sell out. They made more cartridges than consoles on the market.
That is phenomenal.
Which made no sense whatsoever.
Phenomenal.
Again, one of the main reasons why the video game industry crashed.
And why there was a giant pit full of them in New Mexico.
Yes, exactly. And that was a great documentary, by the way. So 1.97 million for E.T. Number 7, I don't know if you remember the game Demon Attack. It was a great game.
Ooh, yes, I do. Vaguely, but I do.
2.1 million units.
Okay.
Had really cool artwork, too, to sell it, but the game was actually fun. It was kind of like a Space Invaders Invaders game where you were on the bottom, you were shooting the demons above you.
Yep.
Number 6, no surprise, this should definitely be on the top 10. I loved this game in arcade and out. Frogger, 2.2 million units.
Classic. Absolute classic. Hall of Famer.
Yeah. To me, Frogger was synonymous with the Atari. Like, that's where I put Frogger in my brain.
Okay.
Where did you go with Frogger?
Well, we'll go with the rest of the list. I'll come back to that in case we hit it, which I feel like it's going to be on the list.
All right. So
no. Frogger I love, but to say, like, the Atari game?
No. Frogger, like, when I think of Atari, I think of Frogger because it was one of the games I had. I wouldn't say it's the definitive Atari game, but for Frogger in the 80s, that's where my mind goes.
No, you're right. I got you.
I go to Atari. I don't go to arcade. I don't go to anywhere else.
I understand what you're talking about now.
Yeah. Number 5, 2.5 million units to Space Invaders.
Wow, I would have thought that'd be a little bit more. Okay.
Yeah, but again,
Because that one,
that's an again, these were all arcade ports, so people already knew these games.
true, that's one of the ones that ported over pretty good because it really game wasn't graphically heavy.
No, it was not.
So, well, now that I think about what that one, the 2600 one, looked like, but in any event,
it didn't look that bad.
It didn't look that bad, but
no, considering. Number 4, one of my personal favorites, one you completely revile, and we talk about it all the time. 2.76 million units, Missile Command.
Oh God, yeah, I don't know why anyone wants to play that game.
I love Missile Command.
Oh my God, I don't understand.
Such a great game. I used to play that nonstop. Number 3, now here's a big jump. So number 4, 2.76 million.
Okay.
Number 3, 4.31 million, and there's no surprise here because this game was ridiculously popular in the arcade. Asteroids.
Okay, yes, I can see that.
My entire family played Asteroids. Like we would take turns to see who would get the highest score.
Asteroids is a great game. I remember when they brought that into the Beach Club. I mean, I'm talking about this was like the early to mid 90s, and they're bringing in Asteroids.
Yeah,
we had Street Fighter by then, but I remember playing a lot of Asteroids at that point.
Asteroids was just awesome. A very simple concept, worked really well. All right, top 2.
Here we go.
Number 2, 4.5 million units. I loved playing this game, but at the same time, it was ridiculously hard and frustrating. Pitfall.
Number 2, I would have thought that was number 1.
Thought number 1, right?
Would have thought number 1. Pitfall is the game that I think of when I think of Atari. I immediately think Pitfall.
Okay.
All the time. And then the Tarzan yell and everything like that.
Yep. No. Pitfall. I would have thought Pitfall was number 1 too, but the one that beat it out by over 3 million units.
I think I know which one it is, and unfortunately I know why. And unfortunately, when people got home, it might not have been good.
Yeah, but number 1, Pac-Man.
There we go.
7.8 million units. Again, another game that contributed to the crash, and here's why: almost everybody who owned an Atari bought Pac-Man. Yes. And what were they met with? The ultimate bait and switch. This was the one of the worst games ever.
Which is wild because to think, yes, it's a bad version of Pac-Man. It is not the arcade version of Pac-Man, not by a long shot.
Yep.
But still, I would have thought people, I don't know, maybe because I was too young, to really understand the consumer mindset back then, to expect to come home and get the arcade quality compared to all the other Atari games, which I'm not saying they're bad, don't get me wrong. But with that being said, even as a standalone game, the flickering, the nonsense noise, it's just and
awful. Just awful.
Decades later, that homebrew Pac-Man 4K that came out for the Atari 2600 improves on that game.
Yes, it does.
Still a tough one to play.
Still terrible. But here, just something to keep in mind about this Pac-Man game. It was so bad that stores started canceling customers' orders of the game. They wouldn't even sell it to them.
We're going to do you a favor.
No. So many people were returning it that they just stopped selling it. That's how bad it was.
I believe it.
Yeah, so just...
Holy cow.
But it goes down in the history books as the best-selling Atari game, which is terrible.
As it should. It's Pac-Man.
So, something to throw at you, Larry. Favorite Atari 2600 game? If you had to pick one.
Honestly, when I was a kid, it's weird between then and now. When I was a kid, I remember playing Spider-Man a lot.
Yes, I remember that too.
I mean, a lot playing Spider-Man. Nowadays, since I've been replaying them, I've been recollecting them. I have the Atari, the Retron 77, which is their Atari 2600, and it is phenomenal. Berserk. I love playing Berserk, and getting chased down by Evil Otto.
Yes.
Berserk, and I stand corrected on both those. Actually, I mean, those games are great games, but Keystone Capers. I absolutely loved.
That's a great game.
Yes.
That is a great game.
So I apologize. I do stand correct. I love the other two games, but Keystone Capers is phenomenal.
That's fair. What's funny is that you mentioned the game that I remember playing. Again, I think Asteroids probably takes the top spot for me, but Berserk for me was always so much fun.
And Berserk is one that I definitely didn't have growing up. I never played it in the arcade, and it was one of those situations where I'm watching on YouTube, Patman QC. I love promoting his channel because he's amazing. And he was talking about the history of Berserk, and I remember the song. The song Berserk was one of the songs on the Pac-Man Fever album, which is. If you haven't heard it, folks, you gotta hear it before you die. And then actually, it was even slightly. The logo at least was sampled in the Eminem song Berserk. But yeah, so after watching that, I'm like, I gotta play this, and I couldn't find it in the arcade, so I was at Game On. I'm like, boom, let me pick that up.
Get a copy.
And it's just so much of that. And these are games that I'm rediscovering, and a lot of them I'm probably discovering for the first time. Either because I don't remember playing them maybe when I was a kid, or I just didn't have a large library back then. You know, my parents probably only bought me games for birthday and Christmas back then.
Right.
So, Wizard of War.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. Great game that you have to... Here's what's great about the Atari, too. To play Wizard of War single player, you got to plug the controller into the second port.
Yep.
Or the right port.
Yes.
Wasn't even playing one, it was left and right. And then discovering some other games. Like, I have a couple of dual-sided Atari games. They're all the way over there now. I've showed it before. Literally, one side's one game, you flip it over, and it's another game. One of them is a Chuck Norris game.
Oh, jeez.
So, and then, like, the idea to be able, like, to flick it in black and white versus color.
You can Breakout with the paddles.
Oh, Breakout, yes.
Yeah, that was great.
Because I love those type of games. I had to have had the paddle. I'm not going to say that otherwise. I'm sure I have the paddle.
I still do. In fact, I think I have 2 Atari 2600s.
Wow. I don't even know what happened to mine originally. I remember vividly, it was like a little bit after Christmas. And it was a couple days after. And I didn't get an Atari, but like my dad's, I might have this a little screwy from memory because and you're going to relate to this as far as time frame, even though you didn't know me back then, but my family was still living in the upstairs apartment in the house.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so we used to live up there and my grandparents lived downstairs. So we were still living upstairs. This is how long ago that was. And I remember my dad's boss came over with his son and he just got an Atari for Christmas. So he brought it over and hooked it up to the TV and we played. And I remember like I was probably 5 maybe, and just going like, yeah, nope, I want this. I don't know how much longer till Christmas comes around again. I need Santa to bring this to me and bring it to me now. So I've had some fond memories of Atari. Atari, you gotta say, Ant, the system had one of the most epic explosions in video games. I mean, when there was an explosion in an Atari video game, I mean, you better mute the television because that sound chip was going to blow the speakers out of the TV.
It's true. It was something else.
You get that. I always think of an Angry Video Game Nerd who always talks about like the boom and the lights and everything.
It's true. It is true.
Oh, man.
Oh, epilepsy.
I mean, are there any fond memories that you have of Atari?
Well, I mean, you know, aside from like all of the games, like I remember we had the Atari hooked up to a small black and white TV that we kept in the corner of the dining room in my family house.
Okay.
Like we originally had it. I think we originally had it on the furniture television.
Yes.
But then time went on. We got the once the Nintendo showed up.
Okay.
And the Nintendo became part of the family TV. The Atari just got relegated to the dining room. But I just remember sitting there and playing it, especially in the summer, because the air conditioner was right there too. So I'd have the air conditioner blowing on me, and I'm sitting in the corner here, like with this little black and white TV, playing my Atari. Again, could not switch to color mode on the Atari.
No, not at that point.
But I just remember doing that, and I just remember again, like my mom and dad also loved to play it. My dad was really good at Asteroids and Missile Command. So just like those are kind of like my memories. Just kind of,
right.
Yeah, of that. I also remember the other Atari memory I have is that my uncle had the 7800.
Okay.
So I remember playing that at his place. I'm like, oh, I got to get this because I think it was backwards compatible.
You know, I want to say it was. That's why I'm starting to feel like maybe I had a 78 and ended up collecting 2600 games.
Yeah.
No, I had a 2600. I definitely had a 2600.
Yeah, I
But
thought it was.
I feel like it might have been because the 5200, those had the wide cartridges.
Yeah, so the
Very wide
7800
cartridges.
ran almost all 2600 cartridges. So it was the
Okay.
first
Wow, look at that.
Yep, one of the first consoles with backward compatibility.
Meanwhile, here we are in 2022. We're fighting for backwards capability for a lot
Yeah,
of
I
these
know.
games.
They're just denying us now because they can.
They
Like,
absolutely
nah.
can.
So yeah, so the 7800, and I remember that like because I was like, oh cool, I gotta get the 7800 because it had games 2600 did not.
True, true. And you had like the upgrade, like you had the color version of that you could play. The color version of Asteroids. And like just better versions of games. I remember that. That's why I'm starting to think now maybe I had a 78.
Yeah, I never wound up getting a 78 because again, by that point, the NES was already out.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing I was gonna say. I don't think I remember owning both the Atari and the Nintendo at the same time. And I can't even tell you what would happen to my Atari. I don't know if my mom threw it out, if she got rid of it. I know she probably had something to do with it. Yeah. But I just don't remember having both of them at the same time.
Yeah, and now that you think about it, to be honest with you, I don't even know if I know one of the Ataris I have, somebody gave me because he was getting rid of it and he's like, I really don't want it. Do you want it? I'm like, sure.
Yeah.
The other one, I don't know if it's my original one. I don't.
Interesting.
I don't remember. I want to say that it's not because I can't ever remember like keeping my older systems because again, we had hit a point, and I don't even think FuncoLand was taking Ataris, but I'm just saying.
No.
When FuncoLand came around, it was like, ooh, trade everything in, trade everything up. But yeah. I don't know. Yeah, so I don't know if my Atari 2600 is my original. I'm gonna just lie and say that it is.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Or just say that it is and hope that it's true. It's just
yeah.
All right. Yeah. I'm middle aged. I forget things. So.
Hopefully you'll live past 90.
I have no idea what happened to my Commodore 64. I know I do not.
Oh my God! Yeah, what happened?
The one that I have right now, somebody also gave me because they were getting rid of it.
No, that I remember, and you still got to go through the games. But
yes, I do.
All like 900 of them.
Well, once I have a permanent place to set all this stuff up, that's when it'll happen.
Oh well, but
so it's never gonna happen.
Yeah, you know what? That should be an episode. Just what happened? What happened? Because I have a Wii that just outright got up and left my apartment. I lost a video game system.
Like, what happened to your consoles? We need to do we need to do an episode of where we just try and figure it out.
I can tell you right now, Atari don't know what happened to it.
We'll interview your parents, and they'll be like, "You were screaming for something else, so we threw it out."
Oh no, my mother would absolutely, and I know, and hopefully she's listening. She would have totally been like, "Oh, you bought a Nintendo, so what do you need an Atari for?" Because I remember her vividly when I got a Super Nintendo. She was like, "Good, you can sell your Nintendo games." I'm like, "But Ma, they're different." She's like, "You have a newer system, you don't need the old system." And I sold a lot of my Nintendo games when I got a Super Nintendo.
See, and look at you buying them all back now.
Yeah, oh my God, do I blame her? She hates that. But I mean, it's a combination of her and Sandy. My mother and Hurricane Sandy are responsible for me getting all my video game systems back.
I can't blame anybody for it. But again, my defense though, I learned at a certain age to just keep everything.
I didn't have a choice. So, but nevertheless, happy birthday, Atari. I mean, 50. Good Lord, you don't look a day over 49.
Yes. Well, and now we're talking about Atari in 2022, where they released the Atari VCS, which some people have.
I do have it. I don't think I've turned it on in a while, admittedly, but I do love it.
But now, also celebrating the 50th anniversary, they released Atari Mania.
They will be
Nintendo Switch.
I can't wait for that. Actually,
I thought it comes out this week.
Oh, does it? I don't know. I thought it came out.
I thought it was this week.
We talked about it last week.
Yeah, Atari.
And I watched the trailer.
Hold on 1 second. I just want 2022.
I feel like August, maybe.
Is it August? Okay.
I don't know. I'm guessing at this point.
Oh, okay.
Well, while you're looking that up, I do want to mention the Atari VCS because the Atari does live on, and I know actually, I don't know why people give crap on the Atari VCS because a lot of people actually praise the Atari VCS. Granted, for using it as a PC as opposed to an Atari system.
Right.
It's an amazing PC into itself. You can play Stadia. You can play Luna, Amazon Luna, Xbox Game Pass. You can actually play those on the VCS. So if if you have like another house or a large enough apartment, you just put the VCS in another room and you can play those games. With that being said, though, I use it for the Antstream Arcade, which is a great website to play. It's a subscription-based website that has a crap ton of old games from like the Amiga to the NES and Super NES, and arcade games. Even though it's streaming, it works perfectly. They do tournaments, they do challenge modes. It's really worth looking into.
Okay.
The Atari VCS has a dedicated app for it. I think it's the only home system that does.
Okay.
So that's what I was using that for. Of course, downloading like Atari games. Just, cool to have with the controller and everything. So I do love the Atari VCS. And some of the, what do they call them? Atari's been putting out like remixed versions of a lot of their arcade games. What are they called? They're not called remastered. They're called like something or other. Missile Command Recharged. It's a Recharge series.
Oh, yes.
Missile Command, Asteroid, Black Widow, which I've never played before. That's an awesome game.
Okay.
And a couple others. And they have some exclusives on the Atari VCS, like exclusive levels for those games on the VCS. And they're like less than $10. So
that's not bad.
Yeah, so like trust me, like the nostalgia factor is there. Not enough to purchase it right now unless you know what you're doing with PCs. Then go ahead and buy VCS. But I just the niche of it I like. Remember over the years we've gotten Atari compilations on almost every video game system.
Yep.
Xbox, PlayStation. Those I bought them every time.
Yeah, I bought them for the Xbox because we said we were going to play them.
Oh, that's it. Oh no, not just those. Yep. But you're right. There was those volumes 1 through 3.
Yep.
I'm talking about even the older ones. You know what I mean? Yeah, they've always. So Atari has always been there, it's hard to fathom. It's weird. It's hard to fathom in 2022. A lot of these games, like there is no chance in hell I'm ever gonna go and play Raiders of the Lost Ark on Atari because it's like one of the most wicked games to play.
Yes, it is.
And, like you need like 3 controllers and like 4 people.
What about Custer's Revenge?
That I would love to play on a whole totally different level. Now that I know what it's all about. Yeah. But yeah, like let's talk about like, the porno games on them. There were some adult games on them because again, everyone was making stuff.
Yes.
And they came in those like velvet cases.
Yes.
Which I've only seen twice in person, I think. So yeah. So the lineage lives on with Atari, with the VCS today, with the Atari collections, Atari Mania. 50 years, I mean, honestly, I don't know where they can go wrong unless it's Pac-Man.
Well, basically, Pac-Man and E.T.
Yeah, E.T.
Like, when are we going to get, like, E.T. Recharged where they actually make a decent game out of it?
Oh, my God, imagine. I think there's only one other E.T. game ever made.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, and the other thing is you'd have to go to Spielberg to get the rights. So that's never going to happen.
It's like in the Angry Video Game Nerd movie, they made E.T. 2, and it was EE.ETT or something. Like they spelt it in a way that they were able to get away with.
Well, let's face it, Spielberg games we can just leave them by the wayside. E.T., Jaws.
I love Jaws. Don't knock Jaws.
No. I play Jaws all the time, but let's face it, it's not exactly a great game, and it's based off the worst Jaws movie.
That is true. Jaws 4, yeah. I had to explain that to the Kittner boy when he was signing it.
Yes.
I'm not going to sit here and explain how the video game industry works, pal. Just sign my cartridge and let's have a day.
Yeah, exactly. Sign this so I can just move on.
So happy birthday, Atari. Some great facts that you mentioned. I love the 8-track part of it, and so many other companies responsible because of Atari. So
yeah, Activision, cool. Steve Jobs and Wozniak, Apple. I mean, you got so much.
Firing Bill Gates.
Firing Bill Gates. I love that one. That one's
it's a good one. So, all right. Well, hey, so much for a short episode. So
we talked Atari.
We did actually. This was actually a good one. I like this.
Yeah, I enjoyed this too. It's nice when we leave Nintendo behind for a little while.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But as soon as we're done, I'm gonna probably go back and pick up Axiom Verge 2 again. I'm obsessed.
I'm sure you are. I have a fractured butthole to play.
Oh, gagoosh! All right, and where can they find us?
You can find us on Facebook.com/RetroGamersPodcast, on Instagram @RetroGamersPodcast, on Twitter @RetroGamersPod. You can listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts. You can watch us on YouTube, or you can email us at email@theretrogamers.com.
Yes, and don't forget, coming up this August, if you're in the New York area, August 12th to the 14th, the Long Island Retro Gaming Expo is back after 2 years because of some stupid thing happening in the world. Back at the Cradle of Aviation Museum. Tickets on sale now, liretro.com. The retro gamers will be there in some way, shape, or form. And in fact, they're doing some tournaments during the weekend, and we are sponsoring one of the tournaments.
We are, and if I could remember which one, I would tell you, but now I remember it as Tetris.
Thank you.
Yes. I needed a minute.
We're sponsoring the Tetris tournament, so if you're there, sign up for the Tetris tournament, have fun.
Yes, have a good time, enjoy it.
See us as well. So yeah, so again, pick up your tickets, liretro.com. And with that, Ant, enjoy your week.
You enjoy your week as well. And next week, we will be celebrating Independence Day.
Yes, thank goodness. I love
Independence Week.
Yes. And folks, we will catch you everywhere next week on the Retro Gamers Podcast.